The views and opinions of this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. There is substantial risk of loss in trading futures and options, which you should carefully consider prior to trading. Today's program brought to you by...
So she didn't inherit Grandpa's jawline, but there's no doubt she's family. It's your job to raise her, and it can be tough. Let's make it easier. With technology and automation, you can do more, like produce high-quality bales with way less effort. Built-in sensors can measure bale moisture and size, so you can monitor quality on the go and manage your fleet from your phone. Sit back and enjoy effortless operation. Discover an easier way to work.
Well, right now on the program, let's have a conversation about getting ready for next year's crop, 2026, and how important it is to get started now to have a clean crop next year. Joining us for this conversation, it is good to talk with him once again. Row Crop Segment Manager for Valent USA, Will Griffith is with us here on the show today. Will, it is great to connect with you. Thanks for the time. Hope all is well.
Absolutely, Jesse. Good to visit with you as well. I don't know if we've talked since I moved back south, but in the palatial offices of Valent in Water Valley, Mississippi today. So glad to be joining and glad to have a conversation about something I think that's on everybody's mind right now.
Yeah, well, and good to get you in here to talk about this now because a lot of decisions are being made for 2026. So set this up for us, just 1,000-foot view at the start. Why is it important to start now in terms of getting ready to have a clean crop, we hope, in 2026, Will?
Well, I think it's one of those things, Jesse, that's on everybody's mind right now. You've got a lot of guys in the field, depending on where you are geographically, that have either already completed their harvest, like we have a lot of the beans and corn and rice down here. And then the further north you go, there's still a lot of crops in the field, still a lot going on, but producers are in combines right now. And when they're going across those fields, they're seeing the weedy spots. They're knowing where they're having to slow down because something didn't desiccate from a weed perspective, or maybe they had to make a desiccation application to get that weed under control so they could run their harvester through it. And I think that's one of the things that we think about, especially when we're this time of the year. Crop quality is key. The more trash you have in your crop, the less it's worth, the more work it is to get it in a really good, clean, premium sellable shape. And so I think as we think about the crop as we go into next year, a lot of producers are thinking about, one, can I afford to do this? And two, how do I not have these situations as we get into the growing season next year? And, as we're going across that field and that harvester, most of those weeds have close enough to mature seed heads on them that now we've just spread them all over the field. So the best way to kind of prevent those from continuing to be a problem is to slow down their growth and their germination as we get into the winter months. And fall application is a great opportunity to do that, regardless of geography. That can help set us up for a really strong spring and a good, clean start as we get into the next growing season.
Let's talk about that fall application a little more and thinking about a fall applied residual herbicide. I know there's a lot of products out there. There's certain products that work in different geographies, of course, and things of that nature. I know Valent has a lot of great products. In general, talk a little bit more about how important that fall application can be here as we're going through some of this fall field work here after we get the combines done rolling, et cetera, et cetera. Talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Jesse, as you know, I recently moved back south. I was in Aberdeen, South Dakota for about 8 years, and obviously kind of the opposite ends of the spectrum, right? There a lot of harvesting is just, getting to a point where they're really rolling or finishing up in the Dakota regions, have a really long winter. We know when we're going to get moisture up there. I can tell you exactly when we're going to get moisture, and that's when the snow melts. So it's a great opportunity to get something down get it on the ground so that as we start getting into those winter months, as the soil begins to freeze and lock up, get that snow on the ground, and then you get that slow melt in the spring, and you have great weed control as you get into spring, and it gives you a lot of flexibility from a planting standpoint. And then the further south you move, one of the things that, in that, I would say I-40 to I-70, I-90 range is, there's a lot of fall fertilizer that goes out. Last thing we want to do is have competition for input that we put out there for next year's crop. A great way to do that for for weeds that are in the field now is to go in with that fall burn down, lay down a residual with it, keep those nutrients in the ground. And then as we get to that thawing point in the spring, when those weeds would typically emerge, you have that pre-emerge there to hold those weeds back and keep those nutrients that you've invested in place. And then, you get further south, there's a lot of field work that's gone on. I was not too far from here in Hollandale, Mississippi the other day, and they already have everything rode up and prepped and ready to roll for next year. Obviously, right now is not the best time to put out a fall pre-emerge in the deep south for a multitude of reasons. One, we're really dry. So we don't know how good of an activation we're going to get when it rains, if it rains. It will rain at some point in time. But with the wind blowing and water and everything else, it'd be really good if we could get something on that soil profile to settle it down and then come out with a fall application. But the flip side of that is, we have a lot less harsh winter down here. And so the growing season's traditionally a little longer. So, we typically think sometime between Halloween and Thanksgiving is a really good time to really start thinking about putting something down, because then we get into that December, January timeframe where it does get a little cooler. We can hold those weeds back. But if you put something out this early, soil temps, moisture, microbial activity, all that stuff, you're really not going to be happy with what you get, whether it's Valor or Fierce that you buy from us or a competitive product out on the field. And I think that's the biggest thing is we want to make sure we're getting the most bang for our buck. And obviously in the cropping conditions and the farm economy we're in now, we need to make dang sure that we're not wasting those opportunities to create a positive financial impact on our crop going into the next year.
We're talking with Will Griffin from Valent. And to that point, Will, I think it's important for producers to look at the challenges they had this past growing season and even the most recent growing seasons as well, because there's different weed resistances out there. There's different challenges out there. I think about water hemp, Palmer amaranth, kochia. We found kochia in Missouri this year. I mean, there's so many different things out there. I think it's important for producers to look at what they've been challenged with and then talk with their experts and the folks they collaborate with to make the best decision for their ROI when it comes to weed management with a fall application, right, Will?
No, I agree. Several years ago, the phrase was coined trusted advisor, right? And every producer has that. If it's a consultant or if it's a retail representative, or a basic manufacturer representative, but most of our retail partners in the field are really have strong relationships and are that trusted advisor. And as we think about how we can maximize the opportunity, to your point, resistance is out there. Good, bad, or indifference, it's something that we're going to continue to see growing just because the seed bank continues to grow, right? To your point, the old tumbleweed that is kochia, it can go a long way in some wind or birds or whatever wherever it eats and comes from. And so I think making sure that you have the proper mix down, and with Fierce, we've really made a hard push this year around Fierce for fall application, for fall for that fall application from a residual perspective, because it does have two modes of action. And I think the easiest way to break resistance is to make sure that you have multiple modes of action out there. And with Fierce, you're able to do that. It's a really easy product, low use rate, and it's an industry standard, and it's something that we've used across thousands or millions and millions of acres over the past few years. And the other thing is, it's something that most of our retailers are very familiar with and understand how it works really well. And we also have another form, in the Fierce MTZ side of things, that you get some metribuzin in there, and that continues to extend that three-way mix. And I think at the end of the day, the great opportunity is the more AIs you can get out there to help manage that resistance, the better off you are in the long run. And I think the cleaner your field is going to be when you get back in there in the spring and get ready for that whether it's corn, soybeans, whatever you're planting behind that. And it gives you some flexibility as well, because you don't have to be so rushed to get something out that, you may make a mistake or you may miss an application window. So I think at the end of the day, it's making sure that you are consulting with your trusted advisor in the field. Make sure that you're talking about what problems you have. Like I said, this is a really good time to talk about weed pressure that you had, because most producers just ran across their field in the combine and saw it. And then you come back in the spring and get another residual down and come back in with some overlapping kills. And, this time next year, hopefully we're not having that problem, or it's to a lesser extent. And I think that's where we're trying to get to from a weed management stewardship perspective across molecules, is making sure that we can get multiple modes of action out there so that we don't build resistance around one or two key AIs that we use.
Yeah, and having those multiple modes of action, I know, is so important in a product that you are using. Well, Will, I know folks, if they have questions, they want to take a look at some of the products you mentioned in the Valent lineup and more. I'm sure it's easy enough to get started, not only with their local retailer, but Valent.com is probably a great place to start as well, right, Will?
Absolutely, Valent.com, and you can pull up whatever product you're looking for. It also, and we can give you who your local rep is. So that's something that's really cool about our new website is, you log into it and it can tell you, you pick your geography and it'll tell you where your rep is. And, really excited about the opportunities we have going forward. There's a lot of great stuff going on, not just in the ag industry as a whole, but within Valent. We're really excited about what's coming in the near term, but really appreciate you having me on, Jesse, to have this conversation about what we're positioning for this fall, and look forward to following up again soon.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate the time and the insight. Folks, again, can go online, Valent.com, for more. With that, Will Griffin, row crop segment manager for Valent USA. Thanks for joining us here on the program. Always appreciate the time.
Absolutely appreciate it. Thanks, Jesse.
Make sure to subscribe to the Market Talk YouTube channel. You can watch our latest interviews with top market analysts in the country, find bonus content, and much more. It's easy. Just go to youtube.com/@MarketTalkAg and hit the subscribe button. Or you can search for Market Talk Ag on YouTube.